Okay, so this is going to be the first story in my series of birth stories, and obviously I'm going to start with my first child, Ava G. I've got my husband here with me. He's going to be running all the equipment and then keep me on track with my stories, because when you go through something as traumatic as childbirth and labor and everything, the mind has a funny way of just basically erasing your memory. So it's really hard to remember all of the details, like specifically or exactly. So he's gonna keep me on track. He's gonna be here. All right, let's just jump right into this. At the beginning of this pregnancy, everything started off fantastic. Everything was running smoothly, and I found myself a midwife, and we decided at the beginning of the pregnancy that we were planning on a home birth if everything continued to go well through the pregnancy. Like no complications, nothing wrong with my vitals or the baby's vitals or anything like that. As long as everything went smooth sailing during the pregnancy, then home birth was the plan. At the beginning of the pregnancy, I was living in the same town as my midwife, and then like halfway through the pregnancy, I ended up moving out of town about an hour away from her, but the rest of my family was in town, so I would come into town pretty often, and my prenatals were regular. Like I would check in with her, she was checking up on everything, and everything continued to go well. She was totally on board with traveling an hour away from her up to my house to deliver my baby when it was time. So we were good to go. When I was about 30-ish weeks, then I signed up to take a hypnobirthing class. So because I was planning a home birth, I wanted it to be the easiest possible way to birth, and I had heard so many good things about hypnobirthing. Signed up for the classes. It was like a 4 to 6 week class or program with a class once a week and then some studying in between classes. So I went through that program. I went through the hypnobirthing classes, and my husband went to each of the classes with me, and we learned as much as we could. And as a first-time mom, or as a not a mom, what am I? Is that what you call it?
I don't know.
Being my first child, I thought I knew all the things. So when I went to class, I went to hypnobirthing, and I soaked up all of the information, and I felt trained, like ready for labor, ready for birth. In the class, they tell you all the time, like, birth is not painful, it's going to be great. They show you all kinds of videos of mothers just sitting there and breathing through their contractions, and they don't even call them contractions because it's supposed to be pain-free. You just stay calm and you breathe through it. And so I was like, you know what, I got this. Like labor, I got it in the bag. I'm gonna do so awesome at it. I've heard all these horror stories because I love labor stories, so I was reading up on them all through the end of the pregnancy, enjoying them. And I'd heard so many stories where it was so painful and not manageable or whatever, and I was like, I got this. I've been trained professionally. I got this. So with this pregnancy, my due date was October 27th, and like I said, being a first-time mom or going through this for the first time, I didn't understand that the due date was an estimation of when your baby was gonna come, not the actual due date. So I assumed at the very latest my baby would be here on October 27th. But it was entirely possible for my baby to come early, right? Like, that can happen. So at 38 weeks, I remember being, like I said, I lived out of town, and I remember sitting there and feeling uncomfortableness going on. At the time, I didn't know what it was, but now, like, as I'm much more experienced, I look back on that time and realize it was just some cramping, some Braxton Hicks, things like that. Like, it was not labor. But being the pro that I was at the time, I knew I was in labor. So I call up my midwife, I call up my mom, and I'm like, you guys, I think I'm in labor at 38 weeks. And they were really kind. They were really kind. But I've talked to my mom since then, and she's just like, yeah, I knew that you were in labor at 38 weeks. Pff, come on, you know. She just knew, you know, you just know. Anyway, so she was like, pity came up for me, if that makes sense. So they drive an hour up to come and see me. My midwife checks me, and I'm like not dilated at all. I don't even have like a starting point from the contractions start to the end point. That, like, I'm not in labor at all. But they kindly, you know, go through the motions. Oh, you're doing so good, and cheering me on, and they're like, oh, go for a walk and all this stuff. And I now, oh crap, I'm not in labor. I just called them up, an hour trip, and now my mind is stressing, telling my body, have pains, have contractions, like be in labor, because I just called people up an hour away. I gotta get this going. But obviously the more I'm stressing, the least amount of action is happening. Like nothing is happening. It all stops. So they stay over the night. We get up in the morning, we go get some breakfast, and I went walking for a while with my mom and my midwife that morning, and you know, nothing was happening. So we sent them back home, and I felt stupid. I felt stupid for calling them up. Like, I knew at the time. My husband knew that I wasn't in labor. Like, who let me call? Who let me call them up there? I don't even know. That happens at 38 weeks. Then my due date comes, October 27th. Again, no sign of the baby whatsoever. Halloween comes, and I'm thinking, yes, like this is a good day. Everyone says, oh no, be careful, don't have it on Halloween. And I'm like, that's a fantastic day. Like I would do it. But again, no baby, nothing happens. Then it's November 2nd, and still no baby. I'm about a week over. It's a Friday, and I decide I'm done. I just want to be done. I want this baby out. I'm so uncomfortable, and I'm ready. So I tell my husband, I don't really care what you do with your day today, but I'm going to do all the things that they say that help induce labor at home naturally, and I'm going to just work on that all day today. Go to work if you want to, stay home if you want to. I don't care, but I'm having this baby. So he decides, I'm just going to stay home. We're just going to take this day and relax. It's Friday anyway. So he stays home with me, and I do all the things. At lunchtime, I go to a Mexican restaurant, and at the Mexican restaurant, I order the cheapest chips and salsa with the most hot, spicy salsa that they have on the menu, because I wasn't really in the mood for Mexican food, but you know, the spiciness, that was technically or supposed to help induce labor, so I had to get the most spicy thing that I was willing to eat. So I eat chips and salsa, really spicy salsa, get the worst heartburn ever, and think that was so stupid. It does nothing. I feel nothing happening. I go home, I eat pineapple, a lot of pineapple, because that's supposed to help induce labor. Yeah, nothing was working. So I take a nap, and then I wake up, and like the last straw for me, I get to it's nighttime. I'm done. Nothing has worked. All day long, I've spent all day trying to induce labor with all the natural methods, and nothing is working. So I call my midwife, and I'm like, hey, I want to have this baby. I want to get it out of me. How do I do that? Like, what do I do? And she's like, try going walking. And I'm like, I walk all the time. Every day I go on like a 20 or 30 minute walk. And she's like, no, go walking for an hour long at a time, up and down hills, like power walk, hike, get that baby out through heavy walking. So I tell Wade, let's go walking. So this is like at 10 p.m. at night. Like I said, I had spent all day long. I did take a nap during that day, but I'd spent all day long kind of getting my body ready or prepping it to try to get it to go into labor. And like I said, I was fed up, so I was like, okay, yeah, we're gonna hike, but it's November and cold. 10 p.m. at night, so it was freezing cold, but I was like, hey, get out in the car. We are gonna go find some hills, go find the biggest, steepest hills that you can find, and we are gonna go hike these hills. So we're going like really fast pace, and I'm just like going fast. I'm walking fast, trying to walk this baby out, feeling great, feeling fine, and then all of a sudden I just feel like a drop, and I'm like, I can't move. Like, I can't even take another step. I just feel all of the weight of the baby and everything. It just dropped, and I was like, I really can't move. And he was like, oh, are you in labor? And I'm like, no, I don't think so, because the pain's not stopping. I heard that the contractions were supposed to be like pain and then stop, but this was just heavy, painful in that area, and I was like, okay, I'm done walking, and I couldn't even make it back to the car. So I'm like, you gotta go get the car, come pick me up. So here he is, freezing cold. Like, was there snow on the ground? I don't think so. Maybe there wasn't snow yet. It was cold though. And like 11 p.m. because we were walking for an hour. So he's running up these hills trying to get back to the car. so that he could get it and pick me up, because there was no way that I was going to be walking all the way back up those hills that I had just hiked and get back in the car. So he gets the car, picks me up, takes me home. I, like I said, didn't feel like contractions were happening, but definitely pressure, like a lot of pressure. So I get in the tub, because I had heard that if you get in the tub, it's either going to speed up labor or it's going to stop it. Like, it'll take the pain away. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to sit in the tub and figure out what's going on. So I sit in the tub, call my midwife, and I'm like, hey, I went hiking. I think it worked. The baby dropped. I'm pretty sure she's pretty low down there, but I'm not feeling any contractions, so what do I do now? And she was like, well, if you're really desperate, you could try castor oil. And I'm like, I don't think I even have castor oil at home. Like, is the store open still? Because I will do anything. So I think it was at like 11 p.m. I sent Wade out to go get some castor oil and some Sprite, because I had heard that if you mix it with the Sprite, it doesn't taste as bad and it's supposed to be more effective. I don't know. So I get out of the tub, I get the Sprite and I get the castor oil, and I kind of just mix it up and take it like regular and kind of wash it down with some Sprite, because ooh, it was awful. And then I feel like I think it was within 15 minutes for sure, then contractions started, like actual contractions, the ones that I had been waiting the entire pregnancy to feel. They actually started. Like, I could feel my belly start to tighten really hard, and then it would loosen, just like they described contractions felt like. So that was about midnight when I felt my first contraction. So, and I had a birthing ball that I was renting from somebody. So I sat on the birthing ball and I kind of just wondered, is this real? I don't want to call everybody up again an hour away just to send them right back home. So I went through, I think maybe 4 or 5 of them.
The funny thing is that because we had called before, like we had done the whole 2 weeks before, we were so scared to call of making that mistake again, but also we were like terrified that we were going to not get them there in time.
Yeah.
So like we were
torn.
crazy anxious.
Yes.
And deciding if it was real or not, because I was so scared that they were going to be late. Like,
yeah, exactly. We were torn whether it was actual real life labor or like not, but if it was, we didn't want to wait too long to call them up,
because we had the hour wait time.
Because then what if they didn't make it, you know? And my birth coach lived like 4 hours away from where I was, so like we were distanced pretty far from everybody. But I think, oh yeah, so like after a couple of contractions, I had a friend who was living like in the same area as me, a sister-in-law actually. And I called her and I was like, hey, can you come over? She had had babies before and she was also like training to be a midwife. So I just called her and I was like, hey, can you come over and can you check things out and see if I'm actually in labor before I call everybody from so far away to come up. So she comes over and she's over within like 15 minutes. And like, I don't have her check me or anything, but she just watches me go through a couple of the contractions and she's watching the time and everything, and she's like, okay, yeah, I would definitely call this labor. You're for sure in labor. So as soon as she said that, I picked up the phone and I was like, you guys, hurry up! I'm in labor! I don't know how long this is gonna last. I hope you make it. Like, I don't want to deliver this baby by myself. And I'm like freaking out thinking it's gonna happen right now. The baby's gonna come out of me right now. So get up here right now. So I call them. During the time while I wait for them to come up there, the contractions were still not bad. In between each contraction, I was fine to talk. Even like during the contraction, it wasn't painful. It wasn't hard. So as I'm going through these contractions, I'm like, see, I knew I had labor in the bag. This is cinchy. This is gonna be so easy. Then my mom and my midwife drove up together. They get up there at about 1:45 in the morning. And my midwife checks me and I'm like super pumped because I've had a couple of contractions. We've been going for almost 2 hours with contractions, so I'm probably like dilated something. So she checks and she's like, yeah, this is gonna be a while. This is your first baby. It's gonna take some time. First babies always take some time because your body's like figuring things out. So she tells me I can't even feel the cervix. You're not dilated at all. This is gonna be a while. So I'm like, oh my heck, I don't know why I freaked out calling them all up there so fast because the baby was coming out of me, you know what I mean? Like, that's not happening. And I was super like discouraged. So as soon as she said that, then her and my mom and my sister-in-law all kind of waited in the front room, and me and Wade stayed in my room, and I kind of just laid on the bed going through a couple of the contractions with him just there. It, like I said, it hadn't gotten bad yet. It wasn't really difficult. It just, I don't know, like I said, I was kind of bummed about the news about that it was going to be so much longer, and I was kind of tired as well, and everyone else was tired. So we just rested a little bit. He kind of walked me through some of the contractions, held my hand, super supportive. It was awesome. And it was nice to have that time together just with me and him. We do that for a couple of hours, and then at around 4 in the morning, the contractions changed and started to get like really painful. Really painful, really a lot in my back, and it started to get really difficult to manage the pain. And so during those contractions, then, like I said, in between contractions, I would kind of fall asleep, and then I would be woken up by the intense amount of pain that just would come over me instantly. So I kind of would panic, and like when you're feeling something so painful, it's a natural reaction to kind of tense everything up and tighten to try to like escape the pain. So I did, my body would tighten, and I would like squeeze Wade's hand and just be like, oh, like this hurts so bad. And I remember crying through a couple of contractions thinking, I don't think I can do this. This is so much harder than I thought it was gonna be. I thought labor was gonna be easy and that I totally had it. It got hard, and I must have been making a lot of noise because I woke up my midwife and my mom and my sister-in-law, and so each contraction, or so they came into my bedroom. So my mom would get up and she would push on my back, like I was laying sideways on my bed, and my mom would push on my back and my midwife would push on my knees. So they were pushing against each other to try to ease the pressure, and it helped a lot, but it just, I was in so much pain. And then at like 4:30 in the morning, then my birth coach gets there. So she starts joining the team, pushing on my knees, pushing on my back. And I remember during each contraction, then everyone would jump up, spring up, and then get into position and push and hold their position. And then as soon as the contraction was over, everyone would just sit up against the wall and be like, because it was, you know, middle of the night, 4:30 in the morning. We had been up all night. So I was falling asleep during each contraction. Everyone else was falling asleep during each contraction. And then as soon as one would start, I'd be like, oh, come and get me. Like, help, help, help. So then everyone would jump together and do it. But like, it started getting really hard because since I would fall asleep, then the pain would wake me up and it would shock me, and I didn't feel ready to take it on, like, at all. So I would panic a lot more, and the position just wasn't working for me. So I remember them saying, maybe you should try to get up. So I sat up, and I sat on the birthing ball, and I kind of leaned forward, and they pushed on my back. That wasn't doing anything for me. Still hurt like crap. So then they were like, hey, try getting up and walking. So I walked back and forth in the hallway, trying to ease the pain, and then every time that I would have a contraction, I would kind of lean up against my kitchen counter, and they would push on my back. And then I tried a couple of positions, and they just weren't working. So then I was just like, can I please just get in the tub? So it was about 5:30 or 6 in the morning when I finally just got in the tub. I sat in the tub, and I, like, seriously, as soon as I got in there, the pain had like gone from a 10, crazy, I can't handle this anymore, to 6 or 7. Like, it was manageable. It hurt, obviously, it hurt like crap, but it was manageable. And so, oh, before I got in the tub, then my midwife was like, let me check you, see how dilated you are. So she checks, she's like, okay, you're at a 2. And to me, like, knowing this now, I'm at a 2 before I even start labor, typically. So a 2 is nothing. At the time, because I had gone from where she couldn't even feel the cervix to, I'm a 2, I was like, yes, it's been doing something. So I'm celebrating, and everyone's like, oh no, she's gonna feel so bad that we're gonna tell her she's at a 2. So they're like, you're at a 2, and I'm like, really? Yay! And they're like, okay. Yeah, cool, let's go with that. So I'm like, cool, and I sit down in the tub. I'm at a 2, and as soon as I get in the tub, I'm like, holy crap, I can't do this anymore. This is difficult. So I'm sitting there trying to, like I said, do all my hypnobirthing training, calm myself down. And I remember Wade comes up to me, and he holds my hand, and he's like, you're doing so good. And I'm like, next time we are not doing home birth, we are going to the hospital and I'm getting an epidural. And he's like, no, like, you're doing awesome, don't think those things. And I'm like, you don't have to go through this pain, this hurts, I'm not doing this again. And he was like, it's okay, like, just calm down. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, trying to breathe through it, and my midwife comes and she's like, sometimes it helps if you get like a bowl and you take the water and you pour it over her belly. So then during a couple of contractions, I'm sitting there and I'm like in my zone, you know, trying to breathe through everything, and she takes the bowl and she pours water on me, and I freaked out and I like grabbed her hand and I was like, do not touch me. Don't do that, it hurts. So she's like, oh, it's okay, sometimes they don't like it. So you just have to kind of see what they like. Anyway, so I was like, don't do anything. But then I feel like I kind of like snapped out of it. Like I said, I freaked out a lot because the pain was much more than I had ever expected. When you have never gone through labor before or experienced birth, anything like that before, you can't comprehend the amount of physical pain that your body is gonna go through. Like, there's nothing that can prepare you for what you're about to handle. So I thought I was being prepared, I thought I had done everything, but like I said, there's literally nothing that will prepare you for the amount of trauma that's going to happen during labor. So I freaked out, but at that moment I feel like it was like, let's see, 6 in the morning, because I had gotten in the tub at 5. At about 6 in the morning, I just decided, okay, like, this is happening. I can't stop the pain. I can't escape it. I can't make it go away. It's happening to me right now. I have to figure out how to handle it. So I, like, basically my mind snapped into gear, and I was like, okay, we're doing this. I'm going to just stay focused, stay relaxed. One of the biggest things in hypnobirthing that they teach you is to relax everything, because the more you tighten, the more it's going to hold everything in and not let it try to work its way out. So I was supposed to relax everything, like seriously, my face, eyebrows, everything had to be relaxed. So I sat in the tub. During each contraction, then I had asked Wade, watch my face. If there's anything in my face that tenses, like when you're going through pain and you go like this, then tap on it so that I know to stop it, if that makes sense. So I'm sitting back there and I can feel myself kind of squinting my eyes shut. So I would feel him tap everywhere that I was kind of tensing. So I would relax, let it relax, everything would calm down. And because it was really, really hot going through labor, it's a lot of work on the body. So he had to keep switching out like ice cold wash rags and just kind of rub my face with it because it was so hot. We do that in the tub for a while and I'm feeling great. And we did that for about an hour, from 6 to 7-ish. I think it was probably like an hour and a half to 2 hours. Yeah, about longer. To 8, right? So 6 to 8. So we were in there for a couple of hours. Then my midwife comes back in and she's like, hey, I'm just gonna check you while you're in the tub when you're going through a contraction. It hurts like crap to get checked during a contraction. It hurts so bad. So I was like, okay, I'm ready for this. And then as soon as she started, I was like, ow, ow, it hurts so bad. And it like completely broke my concentration and everything. So I kind of panicked a little bit. So she checked. And like I said, when I had gotten in the tub at 5:30, I was at a 2. She checks. She's like, you're at a 3. And I'm like, holy crap. 2 hours of this, and I have only dilated to a 3, and so I'm trying really hard not to panic. But she says, oh, but you're 100% effaced, so it'll probably progress a little bit more quickly. So then I'm like, okay. Then she says, maybe get up out of the tub and go walking. But because I had found my groove, so to speak, in the tub, the last thing I wanted to do was get out of it, because I figured it out. I had taken away the pain for the most part, and at least I was able to work with it. So rather than being afraid of the pain, I took the pain and like worked with it. So during each contraction, I would imagine everything just opening up, everything just moving along the way that it was supposed to get the job done, and I just completely figured it out. But I did what she asked, and as soon as she was like, okay, go ahead and get out and walk, I was like, can I take a minute or two to take another can I take another couple of contractions in the tub first? And then she was like, yeah. So I sat in there for a little bit, kind of mentally preparing myself to get back out of the tub. About 8 o'clock, I get up out of the tub. And then when I stood up, I felt like an extreme amount of pressure all of the sudden. Like different than what I was feeling before, different than what I'd felt in the tub. Like in the most calming, least amount of TMI possible. Like I had to use the bathroom. Really bad. So as soon as I got out of the tub, I get this feeling and I'm like, ugh. So I tell Wade, get out, please. I'm thinking it's the castor oil because I had taken castor oil before the labor started, stupidly. So now I'm thinking, holy crap, I have to use the bathroom so bad. Get out, because I took castor oil. I don't know what's gonna happen. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, so each contraction that comes, I feel like I need to go to the bathroom really bad. And then as soon as the contraction stops, I don't feel like I need to go anymore. So then I'm like I said, my naive mind, who hasn't never experienced this before, doesn't comprehend this is transition. We are almost done. The baby's almost out. But I know, what?
I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but when we were outside the bathroom, then they told me that it was the baby. They said, I don't think she really needs to go. So we were all sitting right next to the bathroom, afraid that you were going to have the baby, like on the toilet, right?
Really?
Yeah, so we were all sitting right outside the door, not listening or anything, but your mom's going, it's the baby, right? And I'm going, we need to get in there, right?
No. But like I said, I didn't assume that anything was different because just before that she checked and I was at a 3. So I'm like, you know, I still got a ways to go. I have no idea what's going on. But then as I'm sitting on the toilet, then Wade comes in and I'm like, get out, like right during a contraction, because I think, I need to go to the bathroom, this is so embarrassing, just leave me alone. Anyway, so then he goes back out and I finally put myself together and I come out and I'm like trying to figure out how to walk with the baby right there, and I didn't know that that's what it was. So I'm like trying to walk and I'm like, okay, and she's just like walk back and forth and I'm like, okay. So I'm walking back and forth and another contraction hits and I'm like, I need to go to the bathroom so bad. I don't know what's happening to me. So I lean over the counter and I'm like I'm gonna have an accident, you know what I mean? So I'm like trying to breathe through the contraction, trying not to have to use the bathroom. Then the contraction ends and I'm like, okay, I feel fine. I don't know why I did not voice this. I don't know why I didn't say to them, when there's a contraction, I feel like I have to push. When there's not, I don't. They would have known instantly what was going on. Anyway, but I'm like so embarrassed and thinking, oh my God, it's all the effects of castor oil. So I'm like, okay, and then I tell Wade, you gotta take me back in the bathroom. Like, get me into the bathroom. So he does, gets me in there. I'm like, get out, because I think, like I said, that I have to go to the bathroom. I know I'm not stupid enough to try to push, so I don't push during the contractions. I'm just sitting there breathing through them, hoping that everything will just come out the way that it's supposed to. So I'm sitting there and I go through a couple of contractions again, and finally, like, I get to a point where in my mind I'm panicking and I'm thinking, okay, this is not normal, this is probably the baby, I don't know what to do now. I like not even in my right mindset, so I don't call for anybody. I'm just sitting there thinking, holy crap, what do I do? I don't know how to handle this. I don't know what to do. Right then, Wade walks in and I'm like, okay, something's wrong, something's different, I don't know what's going on. So he calls the midwife in there and she's like, okay, it's okay, I'm just gonna check you. And so I'm like, okay, getting ready to get up off the toilet, and she's like, it's fine, I'll just check you here. So I'm sitting there, and as she's checking, I feel like pop and then pressure all of a sudden. And she's like, it's okay, it was just your water, because I panicked and I'm like, oh, what did you do? Something's different, you know what I mean? And she's like, it's okay, it's just your water. And then she's like, you ready to go have this baby? And I'm like, you just barely told me I was at a 3. Now I'm at a 10 and my water broke? Like, what is going on? What the crap? So this is about 8:30 in the morning. So she's like, okay, get the bed ready. Hurry fast, she's gonna get up there, she's gonna have this baby. So I'm like, okay. So I'm trying to get up, but then every time I get up, more of my water just psh, and I don't want to get it all over my carpet. So they have to get this blue, like, pads, the mattress pads, anyway, I don't know, and put it under me like a diaper and help me waddle to the bed. So they sit me down on the bed. My mom gets behind me as my, you know, support. My birth coach gets up in there, it gets up in my face to coach me through each contraction of how to breathe, how to push everything. My midwife's prepping everything down there. I'm sitting there, and as I'm going through each contraction, then I tell my birth coach, I feel like I have to push. And she's like, okay, just listen to your body and go ahead and push with your body. But just do like little baby pushes, because I had told them all, I do not want to tear. Do everything in your power to help me not tear. So she's like, okay, just breathe. So I'm breathing and I'm kind of pushing, and this is happening for like 20 minutes. Like I said, it was 8:30 when I got on the bed, so I was pushing for maybe 20 minutes, but like little baby pushes and stuff. Then it gets to the point where the baby's head starts to crown. And ow, first time, like I said, that this has happened to me. So my body panics, and like I feel myself and my legs literally start shaking uncontrollably because the pain is so much, my body just can't handle it. So then Wade grabs my leg and he just like rubs it, and he's like, it's okay, calm down, like you got this, it's happening, the baby's coming. And so instantly, like I said, the natural reaction is to push really hard when you feel something right there. Like it's just, that's just what you want to do, but you can't or you'll tear. So I'm like freaking out thinking, holy crap. And my birth coach gets up in my face and she's like, okay, just little pushes, just like this, pa, 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 pa. So she helps me do this. And I remember being like, I can't just do little pushes. So I'm sitting there like, pa, 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 like trying really hard not to push and just do pa, but I can't even like breathe. So I'm like, pa, pa, you know what I mean? Going through all of that, and I'm like, holy crap, this is the hardest thing ever. Then I look over and see Wade, and he's like, seeing the baby's head come out for the first time, his face, like I kid you not, he's much more like used to that or experienced to it all now.
Was it really that bad?
But the first time I looked at his face and he was like, how is this happening? And I remember him putting his hands up on his head like, is it gonna fit? You know what I mean? And I was sitting there like trying to stay focused, going pa, pa, and he's over there going ah. And then finally, anyway, I don't have to like actually push to get my babies out. They just come out. Like I have to resist the urge. Otherwise I'll just tear and they'll just fly out of there. Anyway, so the baby finally comes out. Baby's born at 9:05 in the morning. So in all, I had a 9-hour labor from the point that I was like, is this labor? To the time when she came out, which for a first baby, it's not too bad. And I did it all by myself in the comfort of my own home. It went really, really well, really smoothly. She came out perfectly. She came out an even 6 pounds, and she was 19 3/4 inches. So she was a long, skinny baby, but she was so beautiful. I remember before I had my baby, I talked to my mom and I was like, I wonder what my kids are gonna look like. I wonder if they're gonna be cute, whatever. And she told me, anytime you first have a baby or you first birth that baby, they're ugly. Like, it's inevitable. It's like, they're not cute. They come out with all kinds of stuff all over them, not even the right color, not breathing, you know. It's all just this traumatic experience for them. And sometimes their head's a little, you know, funky looking and shaped and whatnot. And she's like, no baby is cute when you first have them. So just, you know, keep that in mind. But I do remember after I had her, then the comments from my midwife and my sister-in-law, my mom, my birth coach, everyone who was there, they just kept saying, oh my word, what a beautiful baby, she's so gorgeous, you did such a good job. And I remember as soon as she come out, I just kept saying, I did it, I did it, I can't believe I did that, that was so hard, I did it, I did it. And I just kept saying it over and over again, I did it. And then as soon as she was put on me and I heard her cry, I just couldn't help it. I cried, and she was so beautiful, and it was such a surreal experience, something that like you can't compare it to anything. And like I said, being at home in the comfort of your own home, doing it completely all natural, going through this with my family, my friends, ones I love, my husband as my support people, it was honestly one of the most enjoyable, awesome experiences ever. I remember after I had her being on such a high, I could not sleep. I had been awake all night the night before, and my mom kept telling me, you try to get some sleep, I'll watch the baby, and I didn't want her to. I wanted her to leave that baby with me, And like I said, I was on such a high, I could not sleep. So I didn't get sleep for a couple of days, but it wasn't because of the baby. It's just because I was so, like, adrenaline rush, everything, and so, like, a crazy experience that I had never imagined that would be that intense and that rewarding at the same time. And it just, one of the best experiences of my entire life.